This is the Concealed Carry Podcast, Season 7, Episode 17. And welcome to the Concealed Carry Podcast, part of the concealedcarry.com network, brought to you by Silencer Shop. Today is Wednesday, November 16th, 2022, as of the recording of this episode, and I am your host, Riley Bowman. And I'm joined today by our producer and master of all things behind the scenes, Matthew Maruster.
What's going on, man? What is up?
I always take great pleasure in trying to, I'm not the most creative in this, but every once in a while I come up with things like master of all things, behind the scenes or whatever. I like making you smile and laugh and chuckle.
Yeah. Well, you got to make me sound important because I'm clearly not. So you amp it up. You're the hype man.
The hype man. I try.
Yeah.
Adrian says, Georgia in the house. Welcome, Adrian, and to all of our viewers and listeners live on the podcast, and to all of you that are not listening live. We welcome you. Today is our Justified Saves episode, where we bring to you a bunch of the best stories covering defensive gun uses, or DGUs, or as we refer to them as justified saves, where the justified use of deadly force is used to save lives. And we've got a bunch of good ones here today. But first, today's episode is brought to you and sponsored by CCW Safe. They are our sponsor typically of these justified save episodes. The reason being is because, well, that's where we recommend you consider signing up for self-defense legal coverage. We personally believe that they have the best program out there, and partly because some of the best people back that coverage. The folks at CCW Safe know what they're doing, have an incredibly talented pool of experts assembled to help and assist you in the aftermath of a defensive gun use. And they will back you as one of their members, which they have demonstrated again and again. In fact, they are the only program that we are aware of that has successfully defended a member against a murder in the first degree charge. So consider signing up for CCW Safe today. Use the code CC Podcast to save 10% off of your membership, and Guardian Nation members save even more. Hope that you will consider supporting them, our sponsor, because they support us. And also, today's episode is sponsored by Guardian Nation, which is our premier membership offering that we have available at concealedcarry.com, where you get access to all kinds of member benefits, including our online library of training videos and content, access to special discounts and offers available to members only, such as the CCW Safe membership discount that I mentioned just a moment ago, which is 20% off instead of the usual 10 for podcast listeners only. And also, you get access to our upcoming Black Friday sale, which will be launching next week. Of course, we have the Thanksgiving holiday coming around. And here's the thing. We'll have a sale going on all weekend long for anybody to take advantage of. But Guardian Nation members save even more off our Black Friday deals. In fact, in many cases, we lose money off of the things that our Guardian Nation members buy, and partly because our Guardian Nation members already gave us money as part of their membership. So that makes sense, right? But also, Guardian Nation members get access to our Black Friday sale early as well. So we hope that you'll consider joining Guardian Nation today by going to guardiannation.com. Make sure you're signed up as a member now in advance of the Black Friday sale so you can take full advantage of that sale, which will kick off next week. So, or if you're listening to the podcast, it may have just released a day or two in advance of that sale. So you want to be on top of that. Guardiannation.com again. All right. So let's get to our first story. Matthew, why don't you tell us this first one here out of the Chicago area, where it says, this was ABC7Chicago.com reporting 1 dead, 1 critically injured in South Shore shooting involving a CCL, or concealed carry license holder, during an attempted robbery.
Yeah, so this happened just on the 11th, November 11th, so not too long ago. Basically what happens, dude comes in, this is 6:20 p.m., comes into, like a 7-Eleven grocery store type thing, and brandishes a firearm, attempting to rob the clerk there. Somebody who's inside, a bystander inside the store, carrying a concealed handgun, licensed, and all that, draws the firearm, shoots the bad guy. As he does that, the bad guy also shoots the clerk he was attempting to rob to begin with. He, the bad guy, the robber, leaves the store. He ends up not making it. The store clerk is critically injured. In the story, it says very critically injured. I don't know how, critically seems to imply that it was a very serious injury, but very critically injured. And so it doesn't say that his condition, other than he was critically injured. He's in the hospital, and it seems as though that this dude was legally justified to shoot and all that. And so, yeah, that's the concealed carry holder wasn't injured in the incident. And yeah, I'll give it back to you so you can kind of take your observations from this.
Yeah, I thought this one was interesting because it's one of those things. It's like, well, you have the concealed carrier get involved in the incident. I mean, obviously he was involved because he's present. He's inside this store as it's being robbed by an armed man. But he's not the direct target, most likely. Most of the times these types of robberies are targeting the clerk and, of course, the cash register or other high value items that the store has, in their possession. And in this case, the concealed carrier decides to intervene and draws his firearm and shoots at the robber. Right. Well, it's one of those things that I was thinking, we always advise caution when third parties get involved in other people's problems. Now, again, this is kind of a tricky one because this guy's kind of sort of involved anyway, as he's also inside that space, inside that store, and so his life potentially is in danger as well. But in this case, I had to wonder if he had not chosen to intervene, would the robber have ended up firing any shots? Would the clerk have ended up getting shot? Maybe not. But then again, maybe he still would have, So we certainly have seen those robberies where, the clerk decides to comply with the robber's demands and still gets shot.
Yep.
For whatever reason, sometimes just out of pure spite. But in this case, you know what? This man had the right to do what he did, and he decided to use justified deadly force. The robber, it cost him his life, and that's one less bad guy out there to commit such a crime again. But we do hope that the store clerk pulls through, as it did say it was that he was taken to the hospital in critical condition. So we hope that he pulls through.
Yeah. He's this older guy, 67, apparently, an immigrant pillar of the community, had a business there for decades and all that. So this is a dude that, nobody deserves to be a victim, right? But this guy's an older guy just trying to make a living. And, your point, there's a tendency in hearing something like this, and I know that our minds think, this dude did something good. He protected life, and but there's always there is a group that's going to hear this and in the same story and say, see, this is why concealed carriers are bad, because this guy wouldn't have gotten shot had the concealed carrier. And that's speculation, right? That's speculation to say that because the concealed carry engaged him, that's why this guy got shot. He could have gotten shot even if, like you said, even if the concealed carrier hadn't engaged him, or the concealed carrier could have gotten shot had he not drawn his firearm and just let the scenario play out however it was going to go. Because clearly we have a robber who has a gun. It's loaded. It's a real gun. He's not afraid to use it, and he's in control of the situation until things kind of shift a little bit. So that's kind of why I threw it back to you, because I thought that this was an interesting take, because there are going to be people that hear that. But I think we'll see another story down the road about people intervening in a third party, and why sometimes, I mean, you make the best call that you can based on the information and this guy made a decision, and he's got to live with it. And that's why when we do intervene, we on a third party, we do need to weigh it. I don't want to say weigh it more, but we have to take into more things into consideration before we react. I'm not saying he did anything wrong. I'm just saying we have to pull in a little bit more information.
Absolutely. Yes, sir. Let's go to the next one here out of Birmingham, Alabama. Suspected intruder shot, killed while trying to crawl through home window, Birmingham police say. This was reported on AL.com. It says here a 29-year-old man was killed when police say he was shot while trying to break into a West Birmingham home. The burglary call went out around 12:45 a.m. The homeowner told police the intruder was trying to crawl through the window of her house. She grabbed her gun and fired a couple of shots, striking the burglary suspect once in the chest. It wasn't immediately clear whether the homeowner knew the man, says the article here. It then says that the wounded man ran a block to the Chevron gas station nearby, where he collapsed at the front door of the store. A store worker called 911 at 12:46 p.m., so 1 minute later after he was shot. Of course, the officers arrived at the store, provided aid to the man until paramedics arrived, and he was transported to the hospital, where he was pronounced dead at 2:11 a.m. So here's what I took away from this, Matthew, is, besides obviously this is, dare I say, classic intruder story. We cover so many of these. We've got others that are very similar to this, as far as home break-ins in the late hours of the night or early morning. But in this case, it's interesting that this man gets shot and is able to still, he's shot lethal, like he's going to die. He is dying. It strikes him in the center of the chest, it says, and he is still able to run a full block away before he collapses. It's just a good reminder that just because we fire even a single shot that strikes somebody in a very likely to be lethal location of their body, that there still may be the ability for them to continue to be a threat for some amount of time. Even if that is only a minute, even if that is only long enough to run a block. Well, if they can do that, then they can certainly do other things in that time frame while they are expiring. So just good to keep in mind as a fresh reminder.
Yeah. And I'll also note, we put all the links to these stories in the show notes. And if you like, go into the show notes and read the stories for yourself. There's some videos sometimes with them. But in this particular article, I thought it was interesting. The writer actually said that about this story, that this was the 126th homicide of the year. And he managed to get it right and say, of those, 7 had been ruled justifiable, therefore aren't deemed criminal, which I thought was important, because so often, we see these types of things and it just gets lumped in like, well, another shooting, another gun crime, or another, gun violence. This is, the 5th, incident of gun violence this year. And so they use these terms that you and I don't think that this is necessarily considered gun violence, right? Like, but if you just to the casual listener, they say, oh, see, another incident of somebody using a gun criminally. No, this was actually not a criminal use of a gun, and I thought at least these guys got it right and actually kind of parse that out. So kudos to the writer for doing that.
Yeah, I picked up on that as well. Next up, Matthew, you actually wrote this write-up on texas.concealedcarry.com. Woman defends family in Texas home invasion in Edinburgh, Texas.
Yeah, so Joe just commented. He's from Texas in the show notes, or in the Facebook. So hey, Joe, this is I don't know how close you are, but this is happened in Edinburgh, Texas, and just end of October, towards the end of October. Basically, what happens is a dude breaks into a home just after 9 p.m. He comes in through the garage. Now, the article doesn't say how he got in through the garage. Was it unlocked? Was it open? Did he get a garage door? We don't know. But he gained entry through the garage door. A woman is inside with her children. She calls 911 as this guy comes into her home, gets her kids, and retreats to her bedroom where she locks the door. Um, Now this dude starts trying to get through the door. She's yelling out, from inside, "Hey, deputies are on the way. I have a firearm. Get out of my home. You're not welcome here." And he continues to try to breach the door. And once she realizes he wasn't stopping, she fired a single round through the door towards where she believed the suspect was trying to gain entry, strikes him, I believe it was in the arm, shoulder, or elbow, and he takes off. Deputies find him down the road. And so it similar to the other story, a classic example is somebody comes in and breaches, into the home. But I thought this was the original article didn't have a ton of information, but what it did have was really a textbook example of what we kind of harp on, or the principles that we talk um, about, you know, how to defend your home. What's the best, not every, situations are going to be, dependent on a lot of different things, but principle wise, she does everything she possibly could have done, bought herself time, and did everything right. And I'll kind of throw it back to you, because we have the complete home defense that filmed and stuff. And this could be a perfect example that could have been, used in that course.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so first thing I wanted to comment on is, and this is not the only story today that is similar in this regard, that she did fire her shot through the door, which, we always advise caution with such things when you're shooting at something that you can't actually see. I mean, it may be very apparent what's on the other side of that door, meaning that what's on the other side of the door is in fact a threat, a deadly threat, and that you have the justification to use deadly force against that threat. But we want to be so careful firing through objects where we can't actually see where that, because we have to be accountable for every round that we fire. And it's hard to be accountable when we can't actually aim the gun at the thing that we're shooting, and we can't aim through doors and walls and so forth. The other downside is the shooting through objects typically results in less effective performance of that bullet. I mean, it may fail to expand. It may fail to penetrate as deeply as we desire. It may actually yaw or do other things that are less desirable in terms of getting consistent terminal performance. So just some things to think about there. However, she had the justification to do so. She did, in fact, hit her target. That's good. And she got the job done. So, but the thing that you're referencing, Matthew, about how she did the right thing, which is the philosophy that we have taught here at concealedcarry.com since way back when. In fact, I'm trying to think when Jacob and I first recorded the episode called "Isolate the Family, Defend the Room." A lot of episodes ago. I mean, I think it was in the first 40 episodes where we did that episode. I want to say it was like 30 or 32 or thereabouts. Isolate the family is, instead of going out in search of a supposed intruder in our home or apartment or other dwelling, instead of going out into the yard, instead of going out and seeing what's going on with the noises that I heard out there, the break into my vehicle, et cetera, you you have a problem. Isolate yourself and or any others that you care about in your household as much as you can, or maybe they may isolate themselves if they're of the ability to do so, and then take up defense in that barricaded, isolated, somewhat protected, defensible location or position. That's where you have strength in terms of the tactical ability. Like you now control the threshold. Wherever the intruder may try to get at you, you are controlling the threshold they're going to have to cross. And that is a very...
I think you just cut off.
Yeah, sure did, didn't I? Am I back?
Yeah, you're back now.
Oh, good. And so, that's where we believe in practicing this concept of isolating the family and defending the room, because that's the more tactfully strong position or thing to do. So that's
Mhm.
something that's covered quite extensively in the complete home defense video course that we did, which is, by the way, accessible to Guardian Nation members for free. It's one of the many videos in our video library. So
Yeah.
another throwback to our episode sponsor today being Guardian Nation. That's something people can get access to immediately if they just by joining up today.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's all I really wanted to say about that one. I commend her for doing what she did. She made some smart choices. Not sure if shooting through a door is one of those or not, but she got the job done and she did what she needed to do.
Yeah, and I will say, like, even post shooting, we'll cover another story. I think we're going to cover it. Maybe I read it and it didn't make the show, but she didn't go blasting, a bunch of rounds through the door, just willy nilly cranking rounds in
Right.
that general direction. It was one shot. She apparently had pretty good idea of where the dude was on the other side of this door inside. Her whole family's inside, or children are inside that room with her. So not as big of a concern about, shoot through another wall and his, strike a family member. She didn't chase the dude out the house, lobbing rounds as he ran down the street or anything. So I think, she showed really good post shooting, I guess, tactfulness, or you know um, uh, procedures and things. She did everything really well, and got on the phone. And I think that was a really good example. So if you guys, like I said, and before, we put these links in the show notes, check out the show notes and go check out the article. It's on our website too. So if you head over there to our Texas site, Texas concealed carry, texas.concealcarry.com.
Yeah. And we do have a comment from Gerald saying it's kind of a partially complete sentence. Also being able to prove the door wouldn't have stopped the threat. So I'm not entirely certain exactly what Gerald is asking or suggesting here, but I think he's maybe saying something about, uh, whether the door would have or wouldn't have stopped the threat. And actually, in the context of defense within the home, that's actually quite irrelevant in most jurisdictions, since once you have an intruder inside the dwelling, uh, whether there's a door in between you that an interior door between you and that intruder or not is actually, uh, again, to my knowledge, in most jurisdictions, not even a relevant question. So just something to think about there. Let's go down to our next story. This one is rather tragic. So West Point, Georgia is the location. And this happened, I guess, at a place known as West Point Depot. Never even heard of this place. So pardon me if I'm not educated on what all that is. But it says here, father killed by son in self-defense shooting at West Point Depot. A West Point son, again, this is Georgia, it says. So that we're not talking about military, the U.S. Military Academy. We're talking about a place in Georgia called West Point. A son and daughter there are released from jail after police find the deadly shooting of their father to be in self-defense. Whew, what's that? So digging a little bit deeper, this is quite remarkable. About 9:15 p.m., officers responded to the West Point Depot regarding multiple people being shot. When officers arrived at the scene, 3 people were found suffering from gunshot wounds, 2 males and 1 female. Oh, what's going on here? Like this, I was reading the story and I was just like, whoa, this is rather intriguing. Like what's really going on? And then it says that if a 53-year-old man, Terrence Holloway Sr., died as a result of his injuries. And investigating into the shooting, it was discovered that Holloway Sr. brought a gun into the West Point Depot and shot his son, Terrence Holloway Jr., because of a previous dispute. Okay, so this is a domestic situation occurring in a public place. Some kind of dispute between father and son. The father decides to shoot his son. So he shoots him once, apparently, or that actually doesn't really say how many shots, but he says he shot his son while making a second attempt to fire at Holloway Jr. Minnie Holloway, who is Holloway Sr.'s wife, stepped in front of her son, resulting in her getting shot. So now husband has shot wife, and wife was trying to defend child from father who's trying to kill him. Police say at that time, Trayvon and Erica Holloway, children of Minnie and Holloway Sr., got into an altercation with their father, who still had the firearm in his possession. So this is additional children. There was Terrence Holloway Jr., who is the one that's been shot. Trayvon and Erica Holloway are children of this mom who has been shot by the husband. And they're now, of course, arguing with their father, obviously trying to prevent him from murdering or shooting more of their family. He still has his gun. And it says at this point, the father attempts to shoot Trayvon and Erica. However, Trayvon then took the weapon from his father and shot him. So he manages to basically do a gun takeaway and gets that gun from him and shoots him. Erica and Trayvon were arrested at the scene, but ultimately released. Holloway Jr. and Minnie, the mother of these children, are reported to be in stable condition. And again, we assume that these are they're either adult or mostly grown children. I think it referenced one of them. Maybe not. I remember reading somebody was like 20-something years old, but I don't remember. I must be mixing that with another story. So I actually don't know what the ages of these children are, but they must be adults because typically minors' names will not be released in such an instance.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
terrible story.
Why? I mean, it's wild, right? And I think there's a lot of things we can dissect in this, right? But I think one thing, and it's kind of a thread that's run through many of the stories so far, is, I mean, imagine you observe this at any point during, you're a third party and you see this going down. How difficult would it be to discern who is the aggressor, who in your concealed carry, who do I, draw my gun out and protect, and so this is it kind of goes back to that first story. There are instances where you're protecting a third party and it's pretty clear who the aggressor is, right? You're a customer, dude comes in with a gun, give me the money. I mean, that's a little bit more clear than something where, families are rolling around fighting over a gun, people are getting shot, and so I think, when we shouldn't lump all, being involved in a third party as one whole group, because there's a lot that goes into that. And that's sort of, I guess, going back to what I was saying, is we just have to get more information. And if we can't get that information, I think we err on the side of not getting involved. And I'm just going through in my mind, if I see this playing out, I might be verbally saying, hey, get the gun, stop, don't shoot him or whatever. But I'm not going to be getting involved physically. Most likely I'd probably be getting out of there, calling police. But, so it's just things to think about, in trying to get as much information before you get involved. This is a sticky, terrible situation that I mean, I can't even imagine how a family moves on the day after this,
Yep, exactly. Yeah, that's a great point. And one of the great reasons why we advise caution getting involved in third party incidents, unless you truly understand what's going on. There's a great risk there of misreading the situation for what it is. How about you take this next story for us, Matthew, from foxnews.com. Indiana residents fight back, take down would-be robber in apartment break-in, police say.
Yeah, this happened in Kokomo, Indiana. Now, I don't know where that is, but there's some dudes in there that you do not want to mess with. So suspect Merrill Taylor ends up going to the hospital because he got roughed up by some people. Basically, Merrill tries to get into an apartment. And this happens at 3:25 in the morning. So dude tries to get in. He's 18 years old. He's trying to get into apartments. He actually gets into one of the apartments. And there are people within the apartment complex hear what's going on, and 4 guys come out, beat Merrill down, and hold him at gunpoint. And but the interesting thing is this Merrill Taylor, when he breaks in, he has a firearm, and so he points the gun at the residents of this apartment. They jump him, they knock that gun out of his hand and start fighting with this dude. He has another firearm, so he has a backup gun. Tries to retrieves that gun, and they disarm him of that gun, and then they hold him at gunpoint until police arrive. No doubt, in the meantime, tuning him up a little bit, so he thinks twice
Just
before coming. Yeah, just a bit. If you see the pictures, if you're watching on Facebook, he got the worst. It says the other 4 guys, they got some injuries, but didn't have to go to the hospital. This dude had to go to the hospital. He's not happy. And if you're listening to this, head over to the show notes, click on the link, and check out this dude's mugshot, because he definitely got a dose of something that was coming to him.
For sure. Yeah, I'm not going to judge too harshly here, but we do need to be careful. I mean, clearly this is a deadly force incident, right? He had 2 guns on him. The second one of which was pulled, was fired, and fortunately did not injure anybody. But just a caution about, I've seen physical altercations where people deliver too much of a beatdown, and that can sometimes come back and bite them in the rear legally. So just a heads up, we want to use the right amount, the right degree, a proportional degree of force. Now, certainly physical, using your hands and fists and whatever you can physically to defend against a violent attack that is being committed against you via a gun is certainly proportional. But where it gets tricky is, like, imagine you get control of this suspect, you've now taken away their weapons, but you continue delivering the beatdown. That's where people get themselves in trouble. I'm not saying that's what happened here, but just a good reminder for us all. So there you go.
Right on.
Yeah. Now let's go to Las Vegas Review-Journal. Resident shoots intruder who, quote, threatened to kill you all, police say. This happened in West Las Vegas Valley home, and it started out late one evening. Or actually, excuse me, it was like 5:30 in the morning, it says, on a Saturday morning. Man, nobody's up at 5:30 a.m. on a Saturday, right? But basically, you have a man that broke into this home. He actually broke in and started coming up the stairs towards a bedroom door with a knife in hand and saying that he was going to kill you all. This is a 28-year-old suspect. Of course, 911 is called. Meanwhile, residents of the home were trying to, barricade themselves in their room. The husband went of this. There's a husband and a wife. She was the one actually alerted him to the intruder being in the home. They're trying to barricade the door. The husband grabs a gun out of a safe. They also had a daughter. It does not specify the age of that daughter, but the husband was able to grab a gun from the safe. And on the other side of their bedroom door was a strange, shirtless man, it says, again, who had come up the stairs armed with a knife. When the man told the intruder on the other side of the bedroom door that he had a gun, the intruder yelled, "Pistola!" which is the Spanish word for pistol. It's funny how they had to specify that in the article here. I think probably most people would figure that out.
Yeah.
It's okay. Meanwhile, the intruder was trying to force the bedroom door open. The husband fired off a warning shot into the ceiling. I'm going to forgive him for that. And then fired a shot through the door. See, I told you that we had a couple incidences like this today. and that shot through the door had struck the individual's leg. There is some video, apparently from a responding officer's badge cam, that you can review for yourself if you'd like to, uh, where it shows them handling him outside the home on the grass. And it looks to me actually like he got shot pretty dang close to the kneecap. So this dude basically, kneecapped the guy. But again, that was mainly getting lucky because he was firing through the door of the bedroom. But anyway, they managed to successfully defend themselves. Officers actually heard the shot or one of those shots when they were responding, so they got there. They must have gotten there pretty quickly. And one of the officers kicked in the front door, announced himself as an officer, climbed the stairs, and found the now shot, injured, and yelling and screaming intruder bleeding from his leg at the top of the stairs. Another officer responded, and they hauled him out to the front of the home. And he was taken to, well, it actually does specify, to the University Medical Center with a shattered tibia. So must have just missed the knee.
Yeah, what, and you already hit on, like, we're not advising cranking off warning shots into your ceiling. All right, like, that's probably not the best practice. It isn't. But what one thing that stood out is, in this, there is quite a bit of detail in this article, and this suspect is screaming various things, like, in addition to pistola and I'm gonna kill you all, he's screaming, come out, you're running out of time, there's bombs all over the house. So this dude, I mean, I clearly, I wasn't there, I don't know for sure, but it sounds like he wasn't all together, right? He was either some sort of mental issue or chemical issue, drug, some sort of, he was on drugs, clearly not in his right mind. And I think it's important sometimes that we pause and we think and realize that not every time, the people that are committing these types of crimes aren't always going to be, logically minded, where you're telling them, hey, I have a gun, I'm calling the police, like, leave my home. They're like, okay, that sounds like a good idea, I don't want to get caught, I'll leave. They're out of their mind. And so, giving commands is always a good thing. But don't rely on people to, somebody who's broken into your home to have a rational thought in their mind, or respond the way you would think a rational person would. So, I think this is a pretty, clearly this dude wasn't all together when he was in there, unless there were bombs, and they failed to mention that in the article. So yeah, that just was one thing that kind of popped out to me.
Absolutely. Pretty scary situation all the way around.
Yeah.
Now this brings us to the story that the kind of the title of this episode was in part taken from, where a young child was saved by a good Samaritan with a gun. And specifically, this is reported on WGXA.TV out of Warner Robins, Georgia. Man, we've had a lot of stories out of Georgia today.
Mm-hmm.
A local man rescued a distressed child by holding suspected kidnapper at gunpoint. That's the headline. I am gonna clarify that the police later determined this was not so much a kidnapping as there was a relation between the child and the individual that committed this heinous act. But Matthew, why don't you tell us what the way it went down?
Yeah. So this happens in a Walmart parking lot. And basically what happens is, there's a guy, he's in the parking lot. Towards the back side of the parking lot, I guess there's a wooded area that's kind of away from the entry to the Walmart. And this guy observes a vehicle pull up, kids screaming, crying, and sees an adult pull him out of the car and take him around, kind of, I don't know if it was like a dumpster or around a corner into the woods. And so this good Samaritan who's watching, they're waiting, they're getting their oil change. This guy and his buddy are waiting to get their oil change at Walmart. So they're in the parking lot waiting. They see this go down, and they see this guy take the kid into the woods, and they think, well, maybe the kid had to use the the bathroom or something, and he's just the dad's just taking him into the bathroom. But they hear the kid, screaming louder and crying more, and it's taking longer than what they thought. So, the intuition kind of starts peaking. So they say they felt like they had to take action. Now they run and get to the kid where this kid and this adult are there, and the adult is the man is choking the child in the woods, has his hand mounted on top of him with his hands around his throat, and choking the child. They hold him at gunpoint and pull the kid away, and basically this dude says that once the police arrive, they arrest the dude. The kid says that this man told him that he was gonna leave him in the woods, leave his body in the woods for the animals or something to take care of. And so this dude definitely, I mean, there's no I mean, obviously there is some speculation that would he have killed the child, but certainly if he didn't intend to kill the child, he was doing something that was very likely to cause death or serious bodily injury to this kid, whether he meant to or not. It would have been one of those where, we can't prove that he, wanted to kill the kid, but he choked him and the kid died, right? And he just applied too much force. So either way, this kid, his life was saved by just some two dudes that were sitting in the parking lot and just said, you know what, like this doesn't seem right. And, thank God for these two guys, truly, because I'm almost positive that this would have been a homicide without a doubt.
Yeah. And I mean, in a day, in an age, in a world where so few people are quick to act, again, we talk all the time about being cautious with getting involved in other people's problems for good reason. At the same time, there are times where it's time to act, and too many are too quick to pull out their cell phones and record video, or just turn a blind eye and continue about their merry way. In a case where a child is severely being hurt, injured, abused, I am thankful to these two men, especially to this Kelsey Willis, who is really they're both these men are heroes, but it was Kelsey Willis that had a gun with him, that was prepared to act, that drew his gun and put this to a stop.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you, men, for displaying courage that few have and for doing the right thing. So absolutely remarkable.
Yeah. And, you mentioned, it does take courage. This takes courage. And we don't script any of this stuff. And we don't have an idea of what we're going to say. It's kind of part of the, I think why some of the listeners like this show is that it is a conversation that we're having, right? And we're having it with you and just kind of speaking what's on our mind and our heart when we read these. But, we talk about, not getting involved in third party disputes. But like you said, there is a line, and for me personally, and everybody has to go through this through their own mind. There are people that will say, don't get involved in anything. I'm not going to get involved in any third party dispute. I don't care. I don't care if it was an old lady or a mother or a kid. Like, they should have, been better. They should have taken self-defense classes, or they should have gotten training in a gun, or whatever it might be. I'm not like that. Like, I truly advise people, and I would say anybody listening, that I'm not advising you get involved in third-party disputes as a general rule. But for me, if it comes down to somebody who cannot defend themselves, it's a child, it's an old elderly person, it's a woman, and the force is so great that this person is likely to death or serious bodily injury. That's something that I think, and everybody makes their own call, and I'm not telling anybody to do this. And right, you have to go through this, but you have to think, if you're going to carry a firearm for yourself, for self-defense, also think, what is it going to take me to get involved in a third party? And we've seen, several different stories on this episode of third party people getting involved in third party disputes. And I think that you have to be able to dope that out. And this is clearly one of them. You see a child getting choked out. Yeah, that's something. He didn't run up and shoot the guy in the head. He stopped it. You see a woman getting her face beat in, kicked in, where her whole face is getting every bone in her face is getting smacked. You don't run in and shoot the guy in the head, but you need. I think that we need people to step up and be brave, like this Kelsey guy, when it's somebody who cannot defend themselves, and do that. You don't have to agree with me. That's just my opinion.
Yep. Well, I mean, I'll say it outright. Be a little bit strong in my words here, because again, as you touched on, as I touched on earlier, as we've touched on this podcast numerous times about being careful getting involved in third-party problems. By that language, I mean able-bodied adults in some kind of altercation with able-bodied adults, because those are harder to unless you saw exactly what led to it, exactly what happened. If you understood the context, then you might be misjudging what's taking place, right? If you happen to round the corner just after that son in Georgia took away his dad's gun and was pointing it at his dad and about to shoot him, and you go and you see other people shot and bleeding, and you might read that situation as, well, that young man just shot these other people, not realizing that in the short time between your back being turned to them or coming around a corner or whatever it was, that you didn't see that actually it was the old guy that did all the shooting and shooting his own family, and the son took the gun away, right? But if you are seeing violence used against a child, and I mean real violence, I'm not talking about somebody spanking their child. Okay, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, this is a dude choking a child. That is actual violence, actual abuse being perpetrated upon a child by an adult, a defenseless kid. That if you choose not to act, then you are a coward, and I dare say that you are guilty yourself of, well, certainly of allowing said crimes to occur, because the defenseless of our societies, of our communities, those are the ones that, like, if we don't stand up for them, then who will?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, good stuff to ponder. And I actually appreciate the stories that we've covered in this episode today, because it's presented quite a interesting dichotomy of possible events, that like we should prepare ourselves for. That's why we share these stories, so that you kind of have greater information, knowledge, experience, and context and perspective that you can hopefully feed your own personal perspective and context with, so you can hopefully make better decisions in the future should you find yourself encountering something similar. So anyway, that's our stories for today. We got through them all actually in pretty good time, Matthew. Look at us.
Wow. Yeah, it's almost like we didn't have much to say, but no, I think that, like you said, I know that we do these episodes once a month, and sometimes, maybe some listeners are like, oh, we're just going to go through a bunch of stories, and it's the same as it was last month, and some of them are, but I think that this episode, these episodes, these defensive gun uses, are some of my favorite, not just because of the stories, but because I really think that it helps listeners to put themselves in those shoes, to really see what's going on and think about these things before it happens, and know what I'm willing to get involved in, what I'm not. In if you can prepare your mind a little bit in advance, I think that your performance, you'll make better decisions when the time comes. So I love these episodes. I'm glad we continue to do these.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thank you for doing this with me today, Matthew.
Yeah, man.
Hey, real quick before I forget, happy birthday to you. I should
Oh,
say happy Marine Corps birthday that we missed, acknowledging last week
yeah, we
when
gotta
we didn't
say.
we didn't actually have any podcast episodes last week, which I
Right.
apologize. It just was a busy week and then we ended up having to be on the road for the Concealed Carry Expo and saw
Yeah.
some of our listeners at the show. So good to see many of you there and appreciate your support of us. Before we let you go, a reminder of today's episode sponsors, ccwsafe.com, the place you can find self-defense coverage uh, program, such as you got the Ultimate Plan you could sign up for with them. You got the Defender Plan. You have the Protector Plan for those of you that may be military or law enforcement. And you can use the code CC Podcast to save 10% off your membership. And again, Guardian Nation, guardiannation.com to sign up today to take advantage not only of all the many great benefits of membership today, but also to take advantage of our upcoming Black Friday sale. So we hope that you will do that. And so we guess we'll sign off of here and let you all go. This episode will likely be getting published during the week of Thanksgiving. So we wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. Those of you that watch and catch our show live on Facebook and YouTube, you may see us one more time before the holiday, but happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We hope that you're safe in your travels. And until next time, a reminder to train right, train often, and train safe so you can fight hard, fight fast, and fight true. Take care.